Denied Sapience. Chapter 17. Talia, Runaway Human. December 4th, Earth Year 2103. Hours crawled by at a mocking pace as Enzo and I trudged through the stillborn subway system's labyrinthine tunnels. Occasionally, Dovetail would chime in from inside our heads, telling us to either keep moving or make a turn. Remind me again where exactly we're going, Enzo yawned, his eyes only half open as we moved through the pleasantly cool passageways. I am directing you towards a checkpoint, Dovetail replied bluntly, allowing the words to rattle around in our heads for a bit before deigning to elaborate. There will be food and water there, as well as some gear you will need. Food and water? If nothing else, I liked the sound of that. The snacks I had packed within my bag weren't meant to sustain two people for any significant length of time. We had enough in there to stop and eat just once. Each of us got 2 sticks of jerky and 3 pieces of fruit. Not a feast by any measure, but enough to keep us going. All the while, as we navigated the tunnels, Enzo and I speculated aloud as to the Council's motive behind our subjugation. No matter what theories we tossed around, though, neither of us could make heads or tails of their reasoning. Maybe they're afraid of us? Proposed Enzo, his light shining along the abandoned walls. What if there were others before us who couldn't understand, and they threatened the Council? Threatened them with what? A minor inconvenience? I shook my head, unable to make his idea fit into the puzzle. Let's put aside that any species that can't understand Archeron's law poses absolutely zero genuine danger to the Council. If they really were afraid of us, then why not just wipe us out? I don't know. Enzo sighed in defeat, the gears in his head turning non-stop in further search of a plausible explanation. I feel like we're looking at this from the wrong angle. I sighed, pondering over what little we did know about their decision. No matter how many different viewpoints I tried to employ, however, I just couldn't make it make sense. Our exchange of theories continued for another half hour or so, but nothing we came up with seemed like a logical conclusion. When at last we arrived at the unused subway station marked by Dovetail as our checkpoint, I shoved the ponderings to the back of my mind and approached the rust-caked door that led to a security room. Inside, we were greeted with the pleasant scent of greasy meat, an aroma elevated by our hunger into something nigh on heavenly. On a folding table in the room's center were 2 full bags of fast food accompanied by massive plastic cups full of water. I recognized the symbol on these as being from Ulgraw, a fast food chain Proshore would often bring home whenever he was too exhausted to cook. I was going to provide something non-perishable, began Dovetail, their tone tinted with amusement as Enzo and I quickly set to work on devouring the provided feast. However, energy bars don't win loyalty, and I figured the both of you deserve something better. It's still warm, Enzo noted, taking a sizable chunk out of the Jacovian equivalent of a hamburger. Turns out, meat between grain is a common dish the galaxy over. How did you get it here? You'd be surprised what delivery workers will do for a big enough tip, replied our benefactor. Once your meal is concluded, check that locker behind in the corner of this room for the gear you'll need. The code is Talia's birthday. The more Dovetail spoke, the clearer the image of them in my mind became. It was rather obvious that they were someone with resources, and they seemed to know a thing or two about the Council. My best guess was that they were a turncoat from within. A conclusion I arrived at quickly so as not to sully what may very well be our last good meal with distracting speculation. Ultimately, the bags contained plenty of food to leave us full. At Dovetail's request, we avoided eating ourselves sick in favor of packing the leftovers into one bag and stuffing it into my backpack. With my baser desire for food sated, I brushed the crumbs off of myself and approached the locker, typing in 1121 on its keypad for November 21st. Immediately the locker complied, popping open to reveal within a black tactical backpack, heavier than it looked. Inside it were 2 full canteens, 2 stun batons, 2 additional nanite injectors, a flare gun, protein rations, extra clothes, a small pistol, and a sleek black case with what looked to be an electronic lock. What's this? I asked, holding up the mysterious case so that Dovetail could see it through my eyes. Something you'll be needing later, our benefactor replied in a matter-of-fact tone. For now, just put it back. I'll unlock the case when the time is right. Fine, I conceded, tucking the case back behind the clothes and handing the bag off to Enzo. You can carry this, right? Testing the bag's weight, My fellow stray nodded agreeably before checking its contents and slinging one of its straps onto his corresponding shoulder. "As long as I get to keep this," he grinned, his eyes sparkling with joy as he held up the second gun. "Where to next, Dovetail?" "I'm going to continue guiding you through the tunnels until you reach another subway station, which is now part of a museum exhibit. It will be closed when you arrive. From there, you'll go upstairs and cross the street to Quella's Hotel. The owner there is sympathetic to our cause and has a room ready for you two." Disconcerting as the notion of returning to the outside world was, I'll admit that to my sleepless body, the notion of a warm bed to rest in sounded like heaven. "Let's get going then," I nodded. As our journey through the abandoned subway tunnels continued, so too did the speculation that bounced between us. The ideas we entertained ranged from bold to downright bizarre, yet not one we could come up with ultimately held enough water to sate my thirst for understanding. All this speculation is pointless, I finally concluded, after what must have been another hour of theory crafting. Even if we did have the right conclusion, which I'm sure we don't, we would have no way of being sure. In all fairness, the only ones who truly know might be the council members themselves. Enzo shrugged before nearly tripping on a rusted rail. "And it's not like they're gonna tell us!" The idea started as a whisper in the back of my mind, but the more we continued to fruitlessly grasp at the unknown, the louder it became, until eventually it drowned out Enzo's voice entirely. "There is one way we could know," I half-whispered, some part of me hoping the other stray wouldn't hear and I wouldn't have to elaborate. "And how's that?" Enzo asked, his eyebrow raised curiously as he regarded me with skepticism. "I know the codes to Proshure's front door. If I go back and confront him, maybe I can make him tell me. Perhaps the nanites have not fully settled yet and are interfering with your judgment," Dovetail chimed in almost sarcastically. "To be clear, Talia, that is not a good idea. Your odds of escaping him once were hardly optimal, but even still the odds of it happening twice are less optimistic." Dovetail was right about that much. Even still, I hated the idea of not knowing something so important, especially when that knowledge could very well mean the difference between success and failure. If we're going to go up against the council, we should at the very least understand their motives. "Talia, you barely got away. He'll break you if you go back," Enzo half-whispered, peering directly into my soul with his sympathetic gaze. "Right now we need to focus on getting the hell out of Athuk. Answers be damned." "I guess you're right," I sighed, understanding myself to be outnumbered. Perhaps there would come a time when we could properly grill a council member for answers, but now was not that time. The next subway platform we arrived at was rather obviously different from those that came before it. Display cases lined the walls behind pristinely polished glass, each one containing a relic of the transit system that never was. One held a conductor's uniform sealed in plastic wrap, watching over the station like a ghost mourning the loss of purpose. Just as Dovetail promised, nobody was there to notice us as we climbed out of the tunnel and made our way upstairs. "Don't worry about security," Dovetail told us. "They've been thoroughly bribed not to notice you." Our footsteps echoed down the silent museum hall as we carefully made our way to the front. At times, my thirst for knowledge would override my sense of urgency, and I'd find myself staring at one of the exhibits. In one, I saw a fragment of pottery from their Stone Age. In another was the drafted blueprints for a primitive rocket ship that never got constructed. Apparently, the Jakvians' first draft of Archeron's law was written before their first firearm was built, a fact that felt less like trivia and more akin to a quiet insult. Younger me would have loved to spend all day, perhaps even more than one, in a place like this, learning the history of these fascinating people. When I saw the depiction of their leaders meeting up with the council, a pang of melancholy reverberated through me. What could have been, I wondered, if the council didn't exist and we got to meet them on more equal grounds. As Dovetail instructed, we waited for the museum to open properly before slipping out a few minutes later. Just as they promised, the Quella's Hotel was right across from this museum. With few cars on the road this early in the morning, Enzo and I were able to quickly run across and enter the building without attracting unwanted attention. At the front desk, we were greeted by an elderly Jakuvian man with a kind smile that reminded me against my will of Proshure. "You must be the pets of our VIP," he proclaimed loudly, so that the few other people in the lobby could hear before handing me a key. "Your master is in room 179, he continued more quietly. "Have an excellent stay." Trudging wearily up the stairs with Enzo close behind, I scanned the numbers above each door until I found the one labeled 179. Perhaps a few hours earlier I would have stopped to consider that this might be a trap, but I was far too tired for that now. So instead I slipped the key into its hole before waving Enzo inside and locking the door behind us. "You both should take this opportunity for a warm shower," Dovetail began softly, the words igniting my final bits of strength as I realized how much I wanted such a thing. Enzo was quicker than me in approaching the bathroom door, but as he turned around to see me doing the same, he instead held it open for me. "Titanic rules, remember?" He smiled, walking away as I stepped inside. "Hey, Dovetail, mind if we raid the mini-fridge?" "Not at all," our benefactor replied, as I shut the bathroom door and turned on the water.